If you've been interested in making cheese, you might have run into the idea of cultures quite a bit. So, if you started with something simple like a quick mozzarella, you wouldn't have run into that because we call for citric acid to acidify the milk. But by and large, once you start learning different cheeses, you'll find that cultures are asked for. And so, what cultures do is they're beneficial bacteria that eat the lactose, they eat the sugar in the milk, and they excrete and create acid. So, rather than adding it directly like lemon juice or vinegar or citric acid, the bacteria are doing that work for you. But we start hearing about mesophilic and thermophilic, and the little powder bags say M100 and all different codes, and they sound like scientific powders. And it gets very overwhelming because all different cheesemakers call for different types of powders, of freeze dried cultures. So I want to help you not only realize that you can make perfectly great cheese with just a gallon of pasteurized milk from the grocery store, but you can also find cultures in this day and age, live active cultures sold at your local grocery store. So let's start with mesophilic cultured buttermilk. Cultured buttermilk is a mesophilic culture that you can find at your regular grocery store. Thankfully, people still make biscuits and they still make pancakes and other baked goods for which they need cultured buttermilk. So, thankfully, that is still available. And this one, for example, is from Trader Joe's, but I've gotten it at all different stores all around me. And so, what you do want to make sure is that the label just says cultured milk. For example, it may be salt, or it will say low fat milk, and it'll list off a couple of different bacteria names and maybe salt or maybe not salt. So, what you want to avoid are things like carrageenan or cornstarch, or just weird things where food companies get tricky to give us the mouth feel or the texture. So, make sure that it's real cultured buttermilk. And as I said, Trader Joe's. So, mesophilic. Why is it called mesophilic? To help you remember the difference, meso, let's think mid. And so, mid temperature, room temperature, low temperature. So if we were to make more buttermilk, all we would have to do is get some regular milk, add a bit of buttermilk, leave it out overnight, room temperature. You wake up the next day, you have more buttermilk. So that's another really cool thing about using cultured buttermilk as your mesophilic culture is that you can make more. So there's no need to continuously be ordering powders online and making sure that, they're not going bad in your freezer and using them up before they get ruined. You can propagate your own, and it doesn't require daily upkeep like something like clabber or kefir might. And I've made both of those, and they're both great, but they take some dedication and they take some daily pampering and feeding. And if you're in that type of season in your life and you like waking up, because I have been there, I wake up and I'm excited to go see did it work and smell it, and it smells pleasant, and I'm so excited that my little experiment worked overnight, right? So you might be there, and you might want to take care of something like fear and clabber. But recently, I just retired mine because I'm just not at a point where I want to be watching that. For a while, I was really into drinking the kefir, and I just couldn't drink it fast enough. And with clabber, you need raw milk, and I no longer have access to raw milk easily near me, so that retired that as well. So cultured buttermilk it is for me when it comes to meso. Remember, meso, mid temperature, room temperature, lower temperature cheeses call for mesophilic culture. So now, thermophilic culture. If you've ever made yogurt, you know that you have to incubate it. So think of a thermometer to make sure of the temperature. You'll use a thermos to incubate it. You need temperature, thermophilic. So yogurt is a thermophilic culture. And again, if you buy it at the grocery store, make sure that all it lists is milk and the live cultures. Again, no carrageenan, no tapioca starch, no pectin, no sugar, no fruit, all of that stuff. So this one was at Costco. I believe I bought this one at Costco. And again, the really cool thing with buying your own cultures in the grocery store is that you can propagate them. So if you've made yogurt before, you know that it's quite simple, whether you have a yogurt maker or in my case, an Instant Pot. I love making yogurt in my Instant Pot. And what I'll do is make a whole gallon's worth in my Instant Pot. I'll have a bunch that I can use for yogurt. I'll have a bunch that I'll drain for labna, which is like a yogurt cream cheese, probiotic and tangy and creamy and delicious. And then I'll have some that I can use as a culture for cheese making. Here is the trick to not having to watch it and feed it on a daily basis, like I was saying with clabber and kefir. I just take little silicone ice cube tray like this. So you just take your freshly made cultured buttermilk. If you've purchased some, maybe actually You bought some to make some pancakes or some biscuits, and you think, I have all of this cultured buttermilk. Well, I have a really cool recipe for a one ingredient cheese on my website. You can also freeze a bunch of it. So fill this up, seal it up, put it in your freezer. Other thing you can do is once they are frozen little cubes of cultured buttermilk is you can pop those all into a double zipper bag or silicone bag, whatever you have, or even a jar, and there you have your frozen cultured buttermilk for when you need a mesophilic culture. Similarly, you can do the same with yogurt. Fill it up, freeze it, keep it airtight. And then when you need mesophilic or thermophilic culture, typically what I'll do is use two of these per gallon because it'll typically be a quarter cup of these liquid cultures for a gallon of milk. So I hope that really helps you. And I also hope that it demystifies and takes the intimidation away of all this culture talk. Now, there are specific strains of cultures. You'll look and see on both the yogurt and the cultured buttermilk containers that they list different ones. From different strains will do different things from flavor to texture, aroma, all of that. And so that's when those freeze dried cultures get very specific. And that's when the repeatable, reliable result becomes important to people is if they're making specifically Swiss cheese or specifically Gouda or specifically blue cheese and they want certain things to happen in the cheese. But in beginning cheese making, for really like your first 2 dozen types of cheeses, and maybe for the rest of your cheese making adventure, these two will serve as your cultures. And not only can you get them at the grocery store, but you can make more